Welcome back to Lost Colony in ARK Survival Ascended. In today's video, I want to take a look at all of the builds that I did on Lost Colony so far and hopefully give you some inspirations for if you're tackling the map and looking for a nice base location or of course some base inspiration. Most of these builds will already have a tutorial up on the channel so you can follow along if you want to build them for yourselves. Others, like for example the tribe base, obviously don't have a tutorial, but you can of course still use some of the ideas as inspirations for your own build projects. Hello there survivors, and welcome back to another build showcase here on my channel. Today we're taking a look at all of my best builds on Lost Colony. Let me know down in the comments below what your favorite build is today. And of course, as always, if you enjoy seeing these types of videos, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds you'd really like to see down in the comments below. So here we are at my all-in-one A-frame base that I built here on the very edge of Lost Colony, and it's definitely a very practical base with of course a very modern and sleek aesthetic here, which holds enough space to be a decent dino pen, and of course you can easily do some breeding in here with the bigger rooms at the bottom layer, but of course also all the space is available for all of your crafting and storage needs, making it a great choice if you want to go for the sleek modern design and the endgame base that can do everything you'll need in an ARK playthrough. And before we take a closer look at the build, it is located right here on the map at the very edge. So yeah, for a quick tour, of course, it consists of two major A-frames, both offering you a decent amount of space at the bottom layer, where you can of course do some of your breeding, a connecting building of course in the middle with plenty of space for storage and crafting, and of course two top layers of the A-frame where you can have more of your crafting and storage, your bedroom, etc., and even a greenhouse at the top in the middle layer. And of course the top deck is also a perfect place to park your flyers. So yeah, let's have a closer look at it all. So yeah, we have these A-frames that we can enter on both sides with the big windows, and the cosmetics that I used for this was mostly Architect's Paradise for the glass textures as well as some of the wood, etc., and of course seamless walls for these beautiful white walls, and also the other ones that I painted in a darker color, which makes for this really cool and clean aesthetic. And if we go inside, we'll see that there's definitely a decent amount of space here, so you can do some different breeding projects all at the same time with relative ease. You can see even the Ocedon easily fits inside here, which is probably one of the main things you might be breeding, at least if you build this on Lost Colony, of course. But yeah, you can hold quite a few things in here with relative ease. Then the connecting building, I made sure to have all of my cryo storage, so there's a bunch of cryos lined up here. And on the other side we have even more creatures, and if you're not building on Lost Colony or you have transfers open, you can even house some cartridges in here, so you can even do the breeding for your biggest creatures with relative ease, which of course makes it a very convenient base because they're all perfectly safe here inside of the A-frame. Then the connecting part is not just a great place for a bunch of storage, but also the way that we can get up to the next layer. The next layer gives us access to this connecting bridge with great views of our surroundings, of course, but also even more space. So even on some of these bigger structures like the steam forge, we can easily fit inside. But to the sides of the building, we also have space for our crafting rooms. So we have a bunch of crafting and storage over here on this side with all of the different utilities, even managing to fit in the industrial forge right here at the top of the A-frame. And as I said, plenty of storage options all along the sides. And then over here we have a nice and cozy bedroom as well, a safe spot to log out at with some decent views of your surroundings. And then, of course, we also have access to the very top layer where you can, of course, park flyers, bring your gathering tames. You have plenty of space here. You could even do some breeding. We have a nice greenhouse here in the middle so that you can grow some crops at the same time. And, of course, at the other side, we also, again, will have access to go back to the build itself. There is plenty of structures all around here. Again, crafting and storage going on here. You'll have a decent amount of space. You can even fit the tech wrap up here if you want to. And yeah, that makes for a very convenient, very practical base, in my opinion. And yeah, a really great and sleek modern aesthetic at the same time. Makes just for a really nice base. If you like modern bases, I think this can definitely serve you very well. Next up is the Gothic Cathedral that I designed using the Lost Colony skins as well as just the normal vanilla structures, trying to blend those together to make a really nice and very big base that really features the Lost Colony style. Of course, many of us weren't exactly happy with the Lost Colony skins. It's a little bit more like dark Gothic tech rather than a proper Gothic cosmetic, but I think blending it in with the normal stone textures and using a bunch of paint as well as trying to make stained glass out of the normal greenhouse glass walls, I think you can still get a pretty cool base. And that's what I did with this giant cathedral build, which of course holds plenty of space on the inside for your bigger tames, your breeding projects, your crafting, your storage, you name it. You'll all have space in this building, a building worthy of ruling over the Lost Colony. And of course, if you're wondering about this location, it's another really nice spot actually, whether you want to build this one or not, but it's located right here on the map. It's a nice ledge here on the edge of a lake. And yeah, this was a really fun project, as I said, trying to blend in the normal stone textures with the Lost Colony skins. I think this definitely was my best Lost Colony build, at least using the cosmetics and blending in those for a Gothic tech inspired vibe. And of course, what else could you do than building a cathedral? So inside we'll have plenty of space for a lot of things. We have some cryo fridges here, as well as a nice teleporter. And on the inside you can see plenty of different tames. So a proper Ocedon breeding line we can have. We have these side holes for plenty more different creatures where we can do some breeding projects. You can have your reapers in here quite easily. You can see there's quite a lot of height, so even if you open up transfers, you could probably have gigas and karchas in here. Back here we have even more tames. We have our theries, and in my case the paleo theory, so it looks even nicer. But yeah, decent amount of space back here, and of course all of the Ocedon nicely lined up here in the main hall. And then off to this side I think we have some UT parked too. So yeah, plenty of space in here. As you can see, some nice big entrances, of course, or side halls with our lovely friends lined up everywhere at the same time. But there is plenty of more things to explore in this cathedral, of course. If we go up, we'll find a nice reading nook here with some more little critters and little friends. Definitely heavy on the red light, the Lost Colony vibes here. But we can continue this onwards. We can get to a nice smelting layer. So we have the industrial forge here, as well as some sleeping pods there in those corners to utilize all the space available. Two forges just to maximize those productivity here. And then up here we have the main crafting room, or at least the one with the tech wrap and the dedicated storage. Another teleporter for easier ways to get around, but also some room for breeding projects for some of the smaller creatures here. So we have our Solwyn and Mailwyn, of course, as well as our Vilwyn. And then on the other side we have some Thylas and a Gigantoraptor, just to showcase that there is definitely a decent amount of space here even to do some breeding projects. And then there is much more to all of this. We've got some nice layers here to the side, which is great to park some flyers, and a nice entrance so you can easily fly in and out from these balconies to the side of the cathedral, of course. And on the opposite side, you can already see them there, are the snow owls. So there's even more of them right here. Again, a pretty big layer with a lot of space for all different tames. And then all the way to the top, we have even more room for a little bit more crafting and storage. So all of the other utilities all the way here at the top. Technically, there is more room for more layers, but you'll definitely be getting close to the structure limit if you build all of this, because it is a very big build. So if you're on an official structure limit, it might get a little bit tight, but you will have the ultimate Lost Colony base with all of this space available. And yeah, it's just also a really fun build project. I think I had a lot of fun designing this, trying to again use those Lost Colony skins to get a Gothic feeling build, but also try to make it more like a normal Gothic build. And I think just painting the stone with black colors, I think already really helps a lot. Creating some stained glass looks really ties it all together to be a very nice Gothic cathedral. And probably the biggest project that I took on was rebuilding this Gothic tower that is a pre-built location on the map into a full-on breeding base, because, well, this is a giant tower, and if you try to rebuild it in its full capacity, which I kind of did, you'll have a giant base with so much space, more than you probably reasonably need, but it does make for a really cool location here, of course. And if you are playing single player, or you can get this on a server, it's definitely a really good spot, a ton of space. And even if you don't build something as giant as I did here, there's still a lot of room here and plenty of opportunities to build a really cool Gothic base in this tower that overlooks a beautiful valley on the map. So yeah, if we take a closer look, not that it is hard to find this place, because you can see this tower from pretty far away, but it is located right over here on the map if you want to find it for yourself. So the base that I built kind of exists in a few different sections. We have the crafting hall here in the middle. We have a little dino pen off to the right with the greenhouse on top of it. And then we have the main bit on the left there, which is also the connection from the bottom layers all the way to the top layers, where we have more space, as well as another entrance and actually a tribe tower entrance at the same time. So it is a very big build. You actually have entrances on this layer and you have entrances on that layer, because, well, this tower is pretty big and lots of ways to get to it, which of course helps if you're using this in a survival playthrough. So the main entrance here is of course a behemoth gate, because what else would fit a build this big? And then in the main hall you'll have plenty of space. I utilize this as some cryo storage because it is kind of part of the breeding part. Of course, there is so much space here, you can easily do many breeding projects, Aureliacs, Ocedons, and if you have transfers, of course, Karchas, Gigas, etc., easily will all fit inside. So you can see this definitely has been designed as a breeding hall, so it's just a pretty big hall, nothing too special going on, but we do have a staircase going up here so that we can get to the greenhouse, because, well, if you've got a base this big, you better make sure that you have all the utilities that you might need. So up here we have a functioning greenhouse with a pretty decent size, two small bits off to the side, and then the main greenhouse right here in the middle at the same time. So pretty nice. And then of course you can use the rest of the roof to easily park your flyers, which is always nice to have. And we've utilized a little bit of the castle craft cosmetic with some painted structures to make these battlements up here, which of course always looks pretty cool. Then if we jump back down, we can get into the rest of the build. Again, it's a pretty big location, but a pretty cool location. And I definitely think if you can get this location, you can do some really cool bases here. Then the main crafting hall is off to this side. Again, a pretty big hall with plenty of space here for a very practical hall. I've got all the forges here just to fill up this space. Plenty of storage, etc. I think I had skins on these utilities. I don't know why they're not showing up anymore. Maybe I haven't got them installed anymore or something. Not quite sure. But yeah, you have all the utilities easily available. I even have a dedicated floor here. And yeah, a pretty sizable crafting hall. And of course, access to the rest of the balcony here so that you can even park your bigger tames like the Gigadas Modus, and a transfer station or transmitter so that we can easily transfer off to different maps. But there's much more because of course we have another layer here in the crafting hall to access. So we have even more space up here with more crafting stations. And then I think, yeah, some sleeping pods over here so that you can kind of log out right above the crafting hall, which is probably one of the more practical locations. But we can also go off to the side here where we have another breeding hall with plenty of space and beautiful big windows to let in the light. It's actually this tall that it doesn't quite know that there is a roof above us. But yeah, it's too tall. So for this specific spot, it doesn't realize there's actually structures above it, which is quite funny. We managed to out-limit that limit for some reason. But yeah, we have some pretty big windows all along. Of course, you could add in more floors should you need it, but you can already tell how big it is just by trying to walk up all of these different layers, because it is a pretty big build. I did build a platform up here, so we have another great place for a Gigadas Modus to be parked and fly in and out of. But of course, we can also continue taking up the staircase all the way to the very top of the base, which will lead us right here. We actually have a few thralls up here too. We have a cloner because, I mean, this base is so big, you might as well have one of those. We got some reapers. We got plenty of nice balconies, of course, to enjoy the views of our surroundings. And then we have a large teleporter in here because at this point ran out of things that I needed to have in here because the base was already big enough. But yeah, just as an idea of what you could turn this whole place into. And of course, on top of this castle, we have our tribe tower at the same time to really blend it all together, which makes definitely for a really fun and cool base, a very big base, and I guess a perfect place for breeders that need all the space they can get. The last build I did on Lost Colony was the Gothic Citadel with the, well, you can probably guess it, but it was the Gothic Citadel custom cosmetics, which is a cosmetic definitely inspired by the skins that we got from Lost Colony, but then definitely taking them to the next level, giving us some really nice features to get closer to those Gothic feeling bases, which is exactly what I wanted to achieve with this one. A proper big Gothic Citadel base with, again, a lot of space on the inside, plenty of different rooms for all your crafting, storage, and breeding needs, whatever you fancy most, and a lot of control with these Gothic Citadel cosmetics. If you're wondering where I've built this is located right over here on the map. This is also, I think, the only build that doesn't have a build tutorial video at this point. If you want to see one for this one, let me know down in the comments below. I haven't made one yet because shortly after that I finished this, the Gothic Craft Cosmetics released, and I got obsessed with more Gothic builds. And I probably will be doing a proper Gothic castle with those skins. But if you want to see this one as a tutorial, let me know down in the comments below. And once I've got some more time on my hands, I might still make it. So yeah, if we take a closer look at the base, we can enter here through the main entrance into the big main hall, which offers a decent amount of space here, big enough for a bunch of storage, the tech replicator, and we have some other structures off to the side here. We also have a few dismoders just hanging out here, and of course the boss flags, which are definitely really nice decorative pieces for your Gothic builds. They are very, very cool indeed. Then if we go down to the side here, we have a small dino pen where we can do breeding for some of the small medium-sized creatures that can easily fit through dino gates. Above it we have a bit of an aviary as well, so that we can have some of our flying friends that can fly in and out, readily available close to the main hall so that you can easily get to them. At the back of the main hall we have more crafting stations all the way along the back, as well as a staircase up to the next layer where we have even more crafting and utility, as well as a bunch of storage all the way across the side here. And we have the access point here to, well, kind of the living quarters. I kind of decorated it with a big library here, as well as some of the awesome pet displays, of course, but also have a bedroom where we can safely log out in, just to show you how much room and space you've got available. But there is a lot more to the base, of course. So if we go back down into the main hall, we of course have those spaces we just saw, but we also have an whole other room right off to this side. Again, a lot of space in here, so you can do some proper breeding projects. Here I decided to have some Dreadmare because, well, they kind of fit very well with the Lost Colony vibes, I think. And then here at the very end we also have a nice bio grinder using the Klinger's Castle skins, which is another really good cosmetic. And yeah, we have a pretty sizable room here. Definitely a nice hole to use for breeding. But there's even more. We have the main Citadel tower right here. So a big round base, which offers you pretty much everything you need, honestly. Like, you could just build this tower and you would probably be good to go. With a nice round design here. Teleports to easily get in and out. But also, of course, some entrances here, so you don't have to go through the whole building every time you need to get to this place. So we have some storage and smelting on the first layer. You can get up to the next layer of the tower where we have some Ossodon breeding. Believe it or not, we have a room big enough for a few Ossodon, a teleporter to easily get them in and out if you need to. But also, of course, access points to the next layer of the build. We have a generator in here, and then we have another layer where we have a few flyers. We have a teleporter again, just to easily get around to the different layers, and we can keep going all the way up to the top. We have a few Desmodes also hanging from the ceilings here for easy access, and then all the way at the top layer we have our transmitter, so that we can transfer, of course. And also, of course, you can still park a few flyers at the top of your tower for easy access and easy takeoff right away into the sky. So yeah, that kind of concludes the whole Gothic Citadel base. Yeah, it was a really fun project. A definitely nice challenge to build something with skins similar to the Lost Colony cosmetic, but a little bit more toned down, a little less techy, except for the pieces that you want to. A lot more control about all the glowy elements, and those spiky towers and those flags, etc. really help get a proper Gothic build going. Well, besides Gothic, there's another style that definitely fits very well with Lost Colony and the themes, of course, especially because of Mei Ying being heavily involved in the story. And that's why I've got this Chinese-inspired starter base with not just a little starter base, but also a cozy little Veilwyn breeding stables with room for either your Soulwyn or Mailwyn to grow up and be parked at the same time, and a nice little temple area for a teleporter. Using the Golden Dynasty custom cosmetic skins, as well as the Chinese cosmetic skins for, of course, these awesome textures to really bring this style to life, and especially also with those added firework skins to really just make this a really cool and unique base. It's still one of my favorites, even though this is such a simple base, such a simple design, but I just love it. Not just the builds, the skins, but also the setting here with the whole Lost Colony city right behind it. I don't know why I like it so much, but yeah, I really enjoy this build. And if you're wondering where this is located, because it definitely is one of the best build locations on Lost Colony, you can find it right over here on the map. And then we have a nice gateway instantly here to enter through. This is just a normal gateway, just this skin makes it look very, very cool and a great entrance into your base. And then instantly here to the right side, we have those Vilwyn breeding stables, as well as a nice place to park or Solwyn, or of course Maelwyn. They're the same size or similar size. Yeah, you can get a nice cozy little building where you can park those fluffy friends. And then here to the side, this is where you could do the actual Vilwyn breeding. We have a few of them nicely lined up here, and a few extra pets just for good measure to really fit those cozy vibes in here. Again, it's a very small build, all of these, but I just like the aesthetic. I like the vibes of it. I've got this little temple here in the corner, which is kind of just here for my teleporter, which is, yeah, just a really nice location. Awesome views over the valley down below. But of course, the main views definitely is the looming city in the background, which definitely a cool view to have. And then, of course, we have the main little starter base. I love these little lanterns swinging on the corners of the building at the same time. That's not very starter because you need tech lights to use them. But yeah, they do add some really nice vibes. And then, of course, inside, everything we need from a little starter base. Some storage, some early game crafting, some more crafting and storage over here. Cozy table in the middle, a little kitchen over there at the second half of the building. And of course, upstairs we'll find a cozy little bedroom with a few more storage needs. But yeah, just a very simple cozy bed at the very end of it. So yeah, nothing special, nothing fancy, but just the vibes and those awesome cosmetics, I think, make for a really cool and unique base that definitely fits right at home for this map. And yeah, if you don't want to build anything gothic, this is definitely a good other option to go for. For the next two builds, we almost go into the city. Right in the city outskirts is actually where my Lost Colony journey began. First of all, I built this really easy Gothic starter base, this little workshop where you have everything that you would need to start a playthrough, trying to get to grips with these brand new Lost Colony structures. And I found it really cool to build here on the outskirts of the city, trying to blend them in as if you were still living in this evil city. And the fact that I like that so much wasn't lost on me, because later on I also built this Gothic Townhouse base, which definitely is a lot bigger. Of course, you've got a proper dino pen here, you've got a greenhouse, plenty of space, lots more room for crafting and storage, and a little bit more of a sophisticated medieval Gothic-y vibe for the bigger build there. But both of them very central here in the Lost Colony city outskirts. So if you're thinking of building here, the little workshop was built right here. And well, the big townhouse actually right next door, just a little bit higher on these coordinates. So they're definitely very central, and I think they make for a cool location. I think it's very fun to try and blend in to the actual Lost Colony city, and the outskirts are relatively safe. There's not a lot of patrols here. There are some creatures, of course, at least not constantly harassed by thralls showing up at your front door. This little starter base is definitely quite simple. We've got a little workshop area right here outside the main entrance with some forges, etc. A nice table here, smithy, etc. All the basic things that you need, as well as a little porch here around the building, of course, giving you some more space and just some nice looks, nice different layers to this building. And then of course, once we head inside, we'll see that we have a decent amount of space here to keep your little starter tame, gathering tames safe. We have a gate entrance here so that we can easily get in and out, and somehow we have trees that keep growing back every time I try to get rid of them. Yeah, we have some pet displays, of course. That was the big new thing, the most exciting new build thing, I think, from Lost Colony. Just these little cute creatures that you can now easily display. So yeah, we have a pretty decent size still. Like, you can still get quite a lot of things in here with relative ease, and of course keep some tame saves at the same time because of the gates. Back here we actually have a tiny little greenhouse, so you can even grow a few crops in here without too much trouble. And of course we have a few extra rooms. So we have a room off to the side here, very cozy. Again, a few of our little critters on display just to make those cozy vibes even cozier. And then all the way at the top we have another room with more of our little friends, more storage, and a proper bedroom here just to tie it all together. So all in all, even though it's like a little starter base, this is meant to be very early game, still a decent amount of space, and I quite like the design. I probably would build it with different skins, to be honest. I don't think that the Lost Colony skins look that good if you use this many of them, but if you really want to embrace the theme of the map, it still looks fine. But yeah, probably with a little bit of frontier here and there and just normal structures, this same build probably would look a little bit nicer. And then we fly up to the townhouse itself. Of course, much bigger, much more of a later game build, and a build that will offer you a lot more versatility as to what you can use it for. Still blended in these outskirts of the Lost Colony city, which again, I still think it's a great location. It's a cool location if you can find the right space. And then in here we have a decent sized dino pen where we can keep a few tames, do a little bit of breeding at the same time, and yeah, have a pretty nice sized and cozy feeling dino pen down below with a little workshop area right next to it with a lot of the utilities that you might want to have, and then of course a staircase leading up to the other layers. We have a proper little crafting room here in this kind of in-between layer. Definitely enough space for most of your crafting things. And then here you can have some of your bigger structures like the replicator, the industrial forge, plenty of space for all of your storage needs. And then off to the side we have a nice cozy greenhouse so that you can still grow some crops easily from the inside of your base with, again, decent amount of space there. A few crops can easily be grown. And then off to the side here we have kind of the living quarters. So we have the bedroom, we have some of our tames, some cozy corners, some nice windows of course to enjoy some natural light coming in. And yeah, that kind of ties together this whole base. Makes for a quite cozy base, I think. Makes definitely for a pretty practical base with all of the different layers, the different spaces, and just all the things that you can manage to fit into this. Definitely much more of a base that can last you for a longer time, but of course easy to combine with that smaller starter base if you want to go for maybe a little bit of a town feeling vibe. And another Lost Colony build was this dark Gothic church, which again heavily relies on those Lost Colony skins. A little bit of the Dwarven custom cosmetic for the stained glass windows to blend in with them, because I thought that was such a missed chance to give us a few really cool stained glass skins that we probably would have used most of everything. But yeah, it's a decent looking church. Again, I think full builds with the Lost Colony skins, you can make them work on Lost Colony, but probably I would still recommend blending them with different skins to really make them look a lot cooler. But yeah, again, here on the outskirts of the Lost Colony city, which definitely makes for a cool setting. And if you're wondering where exactly I've built this church, it is located right over here on the map. So again, very, very central. And for a quick tour, it's definitely a good base. Like, it's definitely a good sized build. There's a lot of options here and a lot of space for your different needs. So on the inside, of course, we have a pretty decent dino pen where you can fit in a bunch of different creatures, or of course a bunch of different crafting utilities. So we do get a lot of natural light with all of those stained glass windows. Got the industrial forge here, as well as the tech replicator and a bunch of creatures and storage, etc., all around the sides, of course. Then we have the towers themselves, where you can have some storage, as well as, of course, a ladder up to the different layers. The same thing over here on this side. You can use the ladders to get up to some little bedrooms, but we can also use the staircase on the side here of the church to get onto the next layer of the actual main base part. So we have, again, a lot of our utilities and crafting stations, as well as, of course, our storage readily available. I did also place down a few crop plots. They're not very effective, of course. This is not a greenhouse, but you can still grow some crops should you really need to. But yeah, it's a decent sized base, that's for sure. Like, you can still fit in a fair few structures. So yeah, if you're not doing a lot of breeding, and especially not a lot of breeding of bigger creatures, you should definitely be able to make this base work quite well for you. And of course, the towers themselves, they will offer you some nice small bedrooms here behind the stained glass. Other than that, the rest of the tower is mostly for show. There's not a lot of room up there, but they look quite cool and fit definitely into the whole Lost Colony vibes. And I can definitely not forget about the Lost Colony tribe base that me and my tribe mates build on the community servers that I host. If you don't know, I've got free-to-play community servers that you can join. And yeah, my tribe and I worked on this light versus dark side base with the Gothic castle on one side of the river, the bridge splitting the two styles, and then these Asian-inspired builds over on the other side with a nice pagoda for our flyers, as well as this courtyard for all of our breeding projects, which makes for a really cool and unique base concept, which was a lot of fun to work on. And we also built this in a pretty cool and pretty nice location. So yeah, if you're wondering where this was built, it is right over here on the map. So we'll start here over on the light side with appreciating the courtyard here with the nice temple building at the end, which is a great place for a lot of breeding. We did finish it quite near the end of our Lost Colony playthrough though, so we haven't done a ton of breeding here, but we have all these space now. We also have the temple. I don't believe this was decorated because, well, it is a pretty high structure place already, so we can't really decorate everything too crazily. But yeah, this was always more designed to be a safe place where we can do our breeding whenever we are here on Lost Colony. So we do have plenty of space, and you can already get some amazing glimpses, of course, of the evil Gothic castle on the other side. We also have some lovely garden bits here, and especially during these sunny days, it is a lovely place here with a nice view of the entire valley all the way over to the aberration crash site at the end of the map. Then we have the pagoda here. That's what I built. There's a full tutorial actually if you want to build this pagoda for yourself with all of the different layers to park a bunch of your flying friends. And then of course we have the bridge, the connecting piece between these two styles. So we go from the light side into the dark Gothic castle. I did a little bit of work on the castle, but mostly that was built by Mr. Wild Times, and most of the light side here was built by the Chicken Man. I only did the pagoda over here. But yeah, Mr. Wild Times built an amazing castle. I did build a little house there on the right. You can recognize it because there's a shark statue right on top of it. And I helped with a few little details here and there on the castle, but majority of it was Mr. Wild Times, with a nice courtyard with a decent amount of space, of course, to keep some tames safe. And we definitely needed to keep them safe because until the very end we always had zombies running in and annoying us everywhere. But yeah, we got a great castle here with some really nice details. You can see the red mists between all of those windows, which is a really cool effect using the crystal custom cosmetic. And yeah, there's just a bunch of little layers all around this castle courtyard. But the main part of the base is actually all the way up to the cliff. You can't really see it, but this is just a cliff face that we build a castle facade in front of. And if we follow the way up to the top, we'll get to our actual base. So originally we were gonna try and do a bunch of the storage and stuff in here, but as you can see, it's very narrow. It wouldn't have made for a very practical base. So instead, we've got a really cool themed way up to our actual survival base. So we can follow the candles in here until we get to the very top and we get to our main crafting hall where, yeah, all of the practical base is. So yeah, here we go. We get into our survival base. So we have some structures and utilities right over here on this layer. Of course, there's now more and more crafting stations that you need to place down. So we've got a fair few over here on this layer, as well as a small industrial forge and a travel station. And then we get into the main crafting hall, which is a pretty big space. We got a sunlight in the roof just to let in a little bit more natural light. And then we have all of our crafting and storage in this room. So we have a bunch of the different crafting tables right over here, as well as the tech replicator there in the middle, using the Astraeus custom cosmetic to make it blend in a bit more. We got some daddy walls there blended in with the CKF castle. And then we actually had a ton of space to spare over here. We had a lot more room available should we need it. And of course, some pretty great views from the rest of the base. But yeah, this space, pretty big. And yeah, we didn't actually run out of space. It was a very practical base. Once we had this, the base definitely was miles better. We got ASR, so we have these elevators where you can just jump to get up. You can get up to the rooftop. This little tower here in the middle is what I added here to the design. Easy access to your flyers, of course, because of this, which is always a really nice and practical addition. And then we can go back down into the castle. There's quite a few little bits everywhere to explore. Lovely little details that Mr. Wild Times decorated. We've got our pantries hidden behind these doors. We've got a teleporter as well, so we can easily get into our base. And we've got a little guest here with a nice home of its own here in the corner. We got lovely corridors here in the castle, of course, to follow along. We got our ways up to the next layer, but before we do that, we actually have a little side addition here to the greenhouse. So we have a cozy yet practical greenhouse here with different layers. So we have one layer up here, and then we can elevator up to the next layer where we have even more plants growing there. And then we are right on the edge of where the zombies come from, and they always seem to keep getting into our base somehow. We also have our storage here for all of the loot from, you know, the missions, etc., to keep things organized. And then we have these stairs to lead us up to the dining hall and the kitchen. So we have our nice dining hall here, a lovely kitchen, which looks amazing right in there. And of course, some balconies off to the sides. You can also access the rooftop again from here. So this is where we currently are. But we also have access to the next layer, which again also connects back up to that rooftop. But this also goes to the bedrooms. So we have the bedrooms for the different tribe mates over here. So Mr. Wild, I don't know, this wasn't actually claimed, so that's still up for grabs. We have Crimson, and I don't know if this one was also not claimed. So yeah, not everyone actually made a bedroom. Some people just kind of pass out and log out wherever they are. But then if we jump off the side of the castle here, we get to the side entrance, one of these side entrances into the crafting hall. But we also have this little building off to the side, which is what my room was. So we also have a tribe tower built right in there. But I built my own little side building here where I have a very cozy vampire-y bedroom here, where this is really the only corner that I decorated. So I've got my gloons, I've got my dino storage, and I've got my coffin as a real vampire. And some connective ways to get back into the castle. Some floating candles following down where I've got my little flyer parking spot right here. This is where my Desmodus was always parked. And then we have access to a lovely balcony with this amazing view of our base. And then the whole little building looks like this. So yeah, it was just like a nice small little side addition to our really cool Gothic castle. And yeah, as I said, it was a really cool concept for this base. I love working on this with the tribe, and especially with all the breaks to do all of the missions and all of the Lost Colony content. Anyway, that's it for this base. But yeah, had a lot of fun building this with my tribe mates. And even though Lost Colony is a dark and creepy map, especially if the sun's not shining, we of course also celebrated Christmas during this time, which also meant the Winter Wonderland event. And this time we of course got the gingerbread structure skins, which actually allowed you to build a full-on gingerbread house all out of these amazing cool textures with a lot of decorative options and little details. So of course, even though it's now like summer times, we can't really miss out on our cute little gingerbread house that we build. And of course, you can get this one ready to go for the next Christmas at the end of the year. This was just a fun little bonus thing to do. It was kind of out of the blue that we got some really cool skins for the event. And dare I say it, maybe even better skins than the Lost Colony skins. Like, the details on these are pretty incredible, and a lot of options are available in this set, which definitely makes me hope that we will see more of this for future events, but also hopefully we'll see some of these details and options available on the future cosmetics for new maps that we'll get. On the inside, yeah, it's mostly just a very cozy little place with all of the little decorations and details you might expect from a gingerbread house. It feels very weird to be touring this at this time of year, but yeah, we got a very cozy, Christmassy gingerbread house. I didn't feel right to skip it out, so yeah, we have it here. This is one of the very best builds I made here on Lost Colony for sure. Oh, and in case you're wondering where I've built this, it's a pretty nice location actually. It's right over here on the edge of the map, but a pretty nice snow field. And there we go. Those are my best builds on Lost Colony so far in ARK Survival Ascended. Definitely let me know down in the comments below which one was your favorite. And of course, as always, if you enjoy seeing these types of videos and you want to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate all the support, and feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds you'd like to see down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video or the next stream. For now, goodbye.